happy Keithy.
Happy Keith Smith. His business is doing well. His family's doing well. His health is doing well, which is very good news, Keith.
That's huge. Huge. Oh, am I allowed to say that?
Of course you can say that.
Huge.
Of course you can say that. Judah Wickhauer is behind the camera, and he's the director and producer. We'll cover the data, ladies and gentlemen, that Keith has put on the feed, and we'll interact with you and take your questions, guys, on Real Talk with Keith Smith. If you're watching and you have a question, let us know, and we'll ask the distinguished gentleman himself your question. Keith, give us a tease of what we're going to cover today as the mics are going hot.
Yeah, so two things. One, on a personal front, got some great news, and after 4 years of fighting, and if you have an opportunity, take a look at my Facebook page. The VA and UVA did it, I would say, a miracle. And for those who have been following this for a while, my spine has been falling apart for the last couple of years, and after 4 years of injecting and all this fun stuff in my stomach, it's finally stabilized. So I'm super blessed and happy.
Found out today?
Late last night.
That's awesome.
Late last night. I got the word from the doctors late last night, and everybody, not everybody's experience with the VA is same as mine, so I want to recognize that up front. But my God, they jumped in about 4 years ago, teamed up with a bunch of specialists out of UVA, and that's really who takes care of me. And if you read the post, I was kind of around stuff when I was in the Marine Corps behind the Iron Curtain that bodies do not react well to, and which is a Hunt for Red October reference for those movie fans out there. And after nearly 4 years of shots in the stomach with the 1.5-inch long needle, I'm going to stop it as of the end of May, and because it's been stabilized so well. So it's great stuff. Went from not 4 years ago possibly ending up in a wheelchair to if I sneezed I could fracture a vertebrae, to the doctor told me, hey, you can go back and start running again. So it's just an unbelievable 180. And if you know a vet that's struggling, send them that post. Maybe that might lift their spirits a little bit on it. But man, oh man, they've done a wonderful job. And super shout out to the guys. I got 6 doctors were working on me at UVA. So I'm just beyond grateful.
I love it. We'll talk about it. Judah, everyone's ready for the program to start. I'm going to ask them about that and put it on perspective so you can see the man that Keith Smith is, guys. It's one of the best people I know. Judah Wickhauer, viewers and listeners of all ages, shapes, and sizes watching the program right now. All real estate professionals watching the program right now. J-Dubs, we can rock and roll, my friend, when you are ready. Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. It's an absolute pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille network on a show presented by Yes Realty Partners, a name you can trust in this game we call real estate. Yes Realty Partners. Keith and Jonas Smith, their brokerage is having some fantastic success. And that success is due to honesty, integrity, doing what they say they will do, executing on a plan of attack, and helping buyers and sellers get through the closing table and beyond. Yes Realty Partners, online at yesrealtypartners.com. Today's program has breaking real estate data that we will release to you as inventory seems to be upticking albeit at a snail's pace. But any inventory uptick is good news for the Central Virginia market. For so long, the market has been throttled with inventory, and we're seeing a little smidge upward in that department. We'll talk about that with the distinguished gentleman, Keith Smith. He's been in real estate since 1987. Judah Wickhauer is behind the camera. Judah Wickhauer, if you can go to the studio camera, make sure that Facebook message is open so we can chitter chatter, and welcome Keith Smith to the program. Keith, hello.
Chitter chatter.
Yeah.
I like it. Chitter chatter. Yeah, man. We've been, first of all, do you realize today is the first day of year 7?
That's amazing.
April 17th.
It's been a pleasure.
April 17th, we signed off of 2019, and it started not as Real Talk with Keith Smith. Do you remember it was Real Talk, and I think Judah did a really cool blue logo, and then over time it
did some branding, some development. Yeah, you got this fantastic. If you can go to the studio camera, we can show them the branding for Real Talk with Keith Smith, and we got a standalone website, and he's vetted some partners, which you can click the partners tab on realtalkwithkeithsmith.com and see the partners that Keith and Yona and Yes Realty Partners trust in this game of real estate. You're already getting props on the show, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, and I've said this more than once, and I'm going to continue to say this. Couldn't do this without you. Definitely couldn't do it without Judah over there. But, you know, it's just astounding to think that this is show 1 of our 7th year of doing this. It's unbelievable.
Carly Wagner watching the program. Congratulations, Keith Smith, on your health. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
She says happy Good Friday to everybody on the set. Same to you, Carly Wagner. Yeah. Yona, your beautiful bride, says this is great news, Keith. She's over the moon with happiness.
Oh, yeah.
Put in perspective your happiness. It reminds me of a saying that's resonated with me. Men and women will spend their health getting wealth, then they gladly will pay it all back to get their health back. And you know, you can work, you can grind, you can get shiny things, you can get bricks, you can get fast things, but unless you have good health, what's it all really worth? And my friend got some great news late last night.
And you know, you can leave it to your family, but you sure as heck can't take it with you. Yeah, so, you know, those who have been following the show for a while, I've kind of teased this a little bit, but this has been a 4-year fight. When I was in the service in the first half of the 80s, attached to the U.S. embassies behind the Iron Curtain, so I was in the Soviet bloc. Let's just say we were exposed to some stuff, nasty stuff that you can't see, that bodies don't really react very well to. And over time, I have a 75% hearing loss, which is getting worse. I have tinnitus, which is the ringing in my ears, which is getting worse. But the big thing that was scaring me, I have 12 busted vertebrae in my back, which started in '92. And eventually, about 4 years ago, everybody kind of figured out what was going on. And the VA medical system, this isn't everybody's experience there, right? So I want to respect that and honor people have different experiences. My experience has been nothing but stellar. They connected me with some specialists in the UVA. You know, we talk about on the show all the time about why do people move here? These specialists that are helping me at UVA are world renowned. There's nobody else in the country that is doing this kind of work on bone density loss in males in the spine. And I usually add around here, you know, damn, I know I'm spineless, but this was ridiculous. But, you know, put me on a great program, multiple doctors, been injecting myself with a medicine that they actually fly over from Germany.
Wow.
Every morning for almost 4 years. A nice 1.5 inch long needle, which I keep away from Yona, by the way. And look, I found out yesterday, I did my normal blood work, MRIs, and all this stuff, and I got the news that we're stabilized.
That's awesome.
Right? So we're, you know, at a point there in the beginning, they were like, we don't know if we can stop this or not, and you might end up in a wheelchair sooner than later. Just to put it in perspective, when we started this journey 4 years ago, if I would have sneezed, I would have broke, bad. I had run the risk of breaking more bones in my back. So, I'm just super blessed. But I really want to take the opportunity here publicly to thank the VA and particularly UVA, because the VA realized we don't have the specialists to do this, and they punted me over to UVA, and I'm not, and I'm thankful to all the taxpayers and all this stuff, but I haven't paid a penny for this. So I get chills when I think about it, and to your point, you can't take it with you. Well, when you have grandkids, this becomes even more real.
Right.
That I want to spend time with my grandkids and stuff like that. So, if there's a vet in your life or anybody in your life, send them that post, particularly a vet. And if they're not having a good experience, DM me. I'd love to talk to them.
Ray Cadell watching the program. He's giving you some love here. William McChesney giving you some love. Yona Smith loves what she's hearing right now. Gary Palmer watching the program. The Positive News. Travis Hackworth in Danville watching the program. Got TV and newspapers watching the program.
So I don't know if everybody can see the 2 pins on my lapel.
Can we see those, J-Dubs?
The top 2 is the USMC flag and the United States, our U.S. flag. The one below it is to raise awareness on suicide, particularly amongst vets. We lose about 22 a day. So, it's just, if there's a vet in your life, you know what, and fellow vets can chime in on this, how they feel about it. Thank you for your service is a wonderful thing. Do you know what the best thing to do with a vet in your life? Take him out for a cup of coffee or her out for a cup of coffee and just talk to him. So what's going on in your life? Or her, what's going on in your life? That will go a long way. So anyway, that's my PSA for the beginning.
I'm happy for you, Keith.
Yeah, this is, without being too dramatic, I can't tell you how impactful this is. This has been potential. This is a life-changing event for us. So
if you're watching on YouTube, guys, let us know how you feel and give Keith some love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the show, and pass along your kind words to Keith Smith. The man provides so much value for this community here in Charlottesville and Albemarle County and Fluvanna County in Central Virginia. And he got some positive news last night as it applies to his health, and I could not be more pleased for my friend.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot to me.
I sincerely mean it. Now, my friend, we also have one of my favorite things of the show,
Data.
I love Data.
Data.
You know I do.
Data. Okay, what movie? Okay, here's a movie reference. What movie was there a character called Data in it from the 80s?
What? Oh, I know this.
Come on.
Give us a hint.
Took place up in the Pacific. You know it. There you go. That was my hint to get the microphone in. Go ahead.
Judah, tell us the answer. Do we have a 3-shot?
Yeah, we do.
I mean, is it knowing you? Is it Star Trek?
No.
Okay.
No. It's a fun movie.
It's a fun movie.
There's a Star Trek character named Data, but
there's a Star Trek.
No, but this is a movie. Well, okay. What 1980? Well, that Star Trek had its first.
I've got a question. Do you know the name of the actor?
No, I don't. That one's a good one. I know the movie. That's about where it ended.
It's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, right?
No. Starts with a
short round.
Starts with a G.
It starts with a G.
Goonies.
Goonies.
No.
Hey, you guys.
You know what's
Hey,
funny?
you guys.
It's the same actor.
It is the same actor, though. Very well. I just don't remember the actor's name.
Yeah.
Was of all the Indiana Jones movies, in my opinion, that was the worst one. Not because of his actor.
There have been some more recent movies that I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Logan Wells Quaylo and Vanessa Parko. Hello.
I'm not counting those. Those don't count. It's kind of like the Star Wars thing, right? You know, the first 3 were always the best. But yeah, Data. So.
Yona Smith says, "Back to the Future."
No, it's Goonies, honey.
Goonies.
It's Goonies.
Are you 100%
Data.
sure about that?
He's got the little things that pop out.
Oh,
Somebody Google it. His name is Dave.
I had a friend who was an only child, and his parents got him anything he wanted, and he would try to copy all that stuff and make his own
from the movie.
Yeah.
It
was a lot of fun.
Data.
And we're sure there's someone named Data and Goonies.
100%.
Okay.
99%. Sometimes I get these things wrong.
I'm gonna,
It is the Smith brain, after all. You never really know.
I don't doubt you. Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Ki Hua Kwan played Data and Goonies.
And then his second movie.
And there was one in Star Trek. I wasn't wrong with the Star Trek call.
You were 100% right
Yeah.
on the Star Trek, but that wasn't the original Star Trek. That wasn't. Was there a Data in the
There's been a
TV series?
Yeah, The Next Generation.
No, like the TV series, the Shatner version.
Are you on
of it.
you're on a 3 shot over there?
No, there wasn't a Data.
Yeah. So my brain goes back to that.
Have you
point.
watched all the Star Treks, Judah?
No, not even close.
Are you a Star Trek aficionado?
I wouldn't call myself an aficionado.
Okay.
So would you prefer old school Star Trek or the original Star Wars?
Mustache Dan Pettit, welcome to the show.
You're talking about a TV series versus movies, and the Star Trek.
I think
also
the
had
original
movies.
Star Trek was so cutting edge that it was very interesting. If you really take the time to read into that. Anyway, we're doing a real estate show, not a Star Trek.
Realtors of all shapes, sizes, and brokerages watching the
Got it.
program right now.
So we're starting set year 7.
Yeah. Real Talk with Keith Smith entering its 7th year today.
First show.
Unbelievable.
And we didn't tap into the...
We didn't hit the bar this
We
morning.
didn't hit the
to
bar this
celebrate.
morning.
Hammer the like button for 7 years of Real Talk with Keith Smith, folks.
So what have we been talking about for...
Inventory. Good God, almost half the time, at least since COVID.
Definitively since COVID. So the numbers I'm going to give you, just to explain it, I have bought into some really good data stuff. Altos is one, and Realtor.com, and in our MLS system, just to get a little geeky on it for a second, when it goes from active to pending, they lose track of the data on active. Realtor.com and Altos, in the paid versions, that you have with that, they don't. They retain and mine that information. So I'm able now to go back and look. Okay, March 2021. So new listing counts, just to pick a number, right? These are homes that just came on that month, right? Is 612. But here's the interesting thing: we've jumped 23% March over March. So March of last year, we had 380 new listings hit the market in the month of March. Now, there was bleed over, right? There was homes that were on the market in February that bleed over. These are just the ones that hit the market from March 1 to the end of 1 versus 467 this past March. That's a 23% jump.
That's a big jump.
Quarter-
It's important to caveat. Last March was the doldrums of inventory.
100%.
So it's a 23% jump on a seller level of inventory. But still, I'll take it.
And to your point, it's 29% down over March of 2019 when there was 644.
So we're down on 2019 pre-COVID levels. What percentage?
29%.
Yeah.
So we're 23% up year over year, but compared to pre-COVID,
Which I think might be a better comparison. 2019.
Michael Guthrie asked what it was in what it was in 2021. In that March, it was 612. So we're substantially below where we were in March of 21. But pretty much since the unicorn years kind of going, the last few years, everybody's like, when is inventory going to change? A 23% jump year over year is huge. And for the folks out there in the field, you can feel it, right? You can feel the inventory picked up. You can feel the buyers kind of sucking in behind it, on it. So, we've been talking about it. It's starting to change. I have now the ability to track that. So we're going to be tracking it from month over month now.
Should we highlight the impact of rates?
Or the lack thereof.
Well,
Well,
the Trump tariffs have caused some pretty volatile economic swings.
haven't seen.
And yesterday, Thursday, April 17th. The average rate on a standard 30-year fixed mortgage was 6.83%, ending the week of April 17th, which was up from 6.62% a week ago. This is data provided by Freddie Mac. That's the largest one-week jump in mortgage rates in nearly a year. So currently where we're at, as of close of business yesterday, mortgage rates had climbed to the highest level in 2 months as Trump's tariffs continue to influence and swing markets, not just nationally, but globally.
Yeah, and I get it. I hear you. There's all kinds of market stuff that happens that impacts 30-year mortgage, right? It's everything from what you just talked about to what's happening. Look at that. We did it in unison.
This is the worst time of the year for yours truly's allergies. You're not an allergy guy. Are you an allergy guy?
I am, but I just take a pill every morning.
I take a Claritin every morning too, and
you still got it.
Yeah.
You know what I would consider?
What's that?
Getting shots.
Yeah, I thought about that.
It actually works. I did that years and years ago. It's a couple.
My wife's gotten that done.
Yeah, and it's impactful because what they do is they load you up with the stuff you're allergic to, so it gets your body used to it. Look, I look at it a little bit differently.
Okay.
I think the market has gotten used to these new 30-year mortgage rates. We don't have a 7 in front of it.
I agree with you. We're knocking on the door of 7.
Yeah, and we've been saying.
But you're right. There's not a 7 handle.
And we've been saying this on the show for a while. You know, we're going to be for a long time, I think, in this 6, 7 range, right? But even if we go up to 8, we've seen it in the past with data. It doesn't. Our market, it doesn't impact it in huge ways. Micro markets matter. Certain micro markets will impact it. But you know, I've been asked 1,000 times, million times, when is inventory starting to climb? We just climbed, and we just climbed year over year now. Now going back towards 2019, we're way off by 2019, but year over year, we've jumped up 23%, and I'm seeing this from a buyer's agent side, and those real estate agents can confirm it or not, that we're starting to see the phone pick up, right? We're starting to see that. When I start looking at the Paragon, I have it set it up on a 7-day, what comes on the market, what goes off the market. And, you know, we've been seeing for the last month in the footprint an average of 100 plus homes, new homes hitting the market that particular week. We haven't seen that in a very long time.
Kevin Yancey highlights the inventory uptick could be tied to headwinds associated with federal job cuts. He also highlights that the inventory uptick could be a result of volatility, economic volatility, or an increased debt load that folks are carrying.
No, it's not it at all.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Kevin, love you, brother. That's not at all. What it is pent-up demand. People have been waiting to put their houses on the market.
People have a lot of equity right now.
People have a ton of equity right now.
Want to tap into it.
And they're tapping into it. But here's what's happening in the market, right? Yes, inventory's picking up compared to last year, but the buyers are sucking in, and they're still, I've got 8 homes I'm showing for a young couple this weekend that I set up showings, this afternoon and tomorrow, that I set up the showings yesterday. From the time I set up the showings on them to this morning, half of them are in pending or about ready to go into pending. So the tempo isn't slowing down. You know, the volume of buyers are coming in. What's happening on the seller side, all these factors are kicking in. But in my opinion, the real factor is people have been sitting and waiting, and now they're just pulling the trigger.
Barbara Becker-Tilley, thank you for watching the program. Comments are coming in quickly. Carly, I'm going to get to your comments, and it's happening, what Keith is talking about, at all price point spectrums. I was following a home listed in the Ednam neighborhood behind Boar's Head, and this listing came in north of 2.3. And after a weekend and quite a bit of showings, a multiple offer scenario, and it sounds like the home is going to close and trade at well above asking price. So folks, this is happening at levels of price point spectrum from starter home up into luxury. Carly has this comment. Comments are coming in faster than I can think of here. Let me get Carly's comment first, and to do that, I am going to have to get into the comments.
While you're doing that,
I got it here for you if you want it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this one's from Carly. This is a good question. Can Keith give a percentage of new construction for each of those pending closed new listing? I asked because a friend in building construction she says, I asked because a friend in building construction sales said prices are likely to go up 35 to 40% over coming year due to the tariffs and the fact that this would drive up the cost to build, specifically building materials impacting. So she is highlighting someone that's in new construction sales that says prices will jump 35 to 40%. I mean, madre, that is a big jump.
And I've been hearing the same thing, and actually I'll leave the big builders names off it, but I was actually on a conference call with 3 of the national and regional builders yesterday in separate Zoom calls for separate projects and separate things, particularly as it relates to the land trust. The prices are going to go up. A lot of the reasons why the prices are also going to go up is because tempo is picking up, right? Sales are picking up. This is depending on the project. This is how new construction works. And a project that's just coming off the ground, that are like the ones out in Green Creekside, you're going to naturally you would have started seeing these prices increase. But as construction costs come in, we've also had this conversation before back in the time of COVID, right? When we couldn't get windows delivered, right? We couldn't get drywall delivered, when things couldn't come in on that. So we're not. The building industry is not unused to this. I don't know if that even makes sense.
Unaccustomed.
But also these larger builders, they're purchasing out 6-12 months ahead of schedule.
Yeah, and that's important to highlight. There's the production.
That's on material side.
The production builders are buying materials well ahead of what's happening to this tariffs.
So that's going to have where it's going to
really impact, guys, is the small custom home
100%.
The small custom home builders and
small, medium-sized builder that can't go out and buy 6 to 12 months worth of material, right? Particularly lumber, right? Lumber is
how much of the lumber comes from Canada?
Well, it's always come from Canada, and we've always had outrageous tariffs as long as I've been building from Canada. But what they do, it's a market, right? And they just hedge the market, and they have the capital to do it, and they just go out on the free market, just like you buy and sell oil or orange juice, right? And they just buy a whole bulk of it on the front end. Same thing with the windows, right? They're generally having X number of models. They know exactly how many windows. They just buy this stuff in bulk out in events. So the small guy, 100%. The renovator, 100%. It's going to impact them. Thank you, Carly.
This comment comes in from someone in the game. He's asked for discretion with the comment.
Sure.
And when he offers commentary, I read it quickly and honor his request for discretion.
Always.
Although I do like when he offers comments where I can utilize his name because I think his name brings a level of significant credibility with his commentary.
And prestige.
Yeah. But I will respect his discretion here. He says, with 30-year paper in the high 6s, the amount of pent-up demand has people executing 5-year ARMs at a discount of mid-5s. It's approaching 2006 to 2008 percentage. It's a risky move if you don't understand that paper. All right, I'll offer some perspective here. This was actually put on my radar by a friend that works in banking. There's a lot of people right now that are doing adjustable rate mortgages. And there's a lot of people that are doing 5-year ARMs that are looking to save some. And the savings is pretty significant. We're knocking on 7's door.
So I know that because that's what we're doing to our house.
You want to put it in perspective here. There's a lot of floating debt that's coming on the market here.
Well, on our houses, we are putting an apartment, what we're calling a terrace-level independent living apartment for my parents.
Okay.
My mom refuses.
What's the price point? Can I ask what that's going to cost you?
We're probably going to be between $150 and $200.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of excavating work, retaining walls, relocating the site work on it, relocating propane, power, cable, the whole nine.
At that point, do you consider if it's $150,000 to $200,000 to build this terrace level, independent living headquarters?
A basement apartment.
Basement apartment. 150 to 2.
I'm just not allowed to say that.
You have massive, massive amounts of equity in your home. You have very little debt. Was there not any consideration given to selling the home, taking the money for purchasing the home, and buying something already set up at a different location, perhaps closer to work, and then walking away with a chunk of money as well?
No, because I can't get what I want that does not have a very big 1 plus something in front of it. Versus,
I mean, I would imagine your house, knowing the market pretty well, is trading what? Maybe high fives north of 6?
Yeah, for sure.
High fives north of 6? Yeah.
So, but I'm part of the problem, right? Because my house is independent living. My main house that you and I live in, everything's on the first floor. I don't really have to move out of it. I've got a 2-acre lot inside of Lake Monticello, right? I absolutely love it. Love my gardens. Love everything about it.
She said there was some thought given to that, Jerry.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay. I mean, I'm spitballing with you for the sake of a talk show.
And
high fives north of 6. You walk with a lot of money. You get the perfect situation, close to work and close to fun and play.
And it's funny. Do you know where that thought?
And then you don't have to go through the construction process.
And then, yeah, I know. Thank you.
Just what Jerry would do.
Except I've got my rest of my siblings within a couple miles of us. But you know who came up with that? Hey, honey, what do you think about this idea? Me, or the guy who doesn't want to move, said, hey, how about we go buy something out in Nelson County and put
I wouldn't go to Nelson.
Oh, I would do it. I would do Nelson County in a heartbeat.
Why Nelson?
Because I'd want a couple of, like 50 acres and a lot of room. That's where I'm at in my life. I would love to do that. But the math doesn't work. Why would I do that? It's just, the math's not going to work. But I got him distracted. You got me distracted.
Floating debt.
You got me distracted.
Our anonymous commenter said this. He sees some concerns with floating debt,
but
adjustable rate mortgages.
Let me get back to that.
Yeah.
Because instead of using cash, we're gonna do like a 15-year arm on it, right? Because the interest rates are great.
So is that a HELOC you're using there?
Probably. I'm in the middle of negotiating it with this Mrs. Smith. I prefer not to do this over the air. But that's one of the plays, right?
A HELOC?
No, just refi.
Refi and going into a 15-year? Well, they're not
but
going to give you a 15-year arm. You're not going to get an arm for 15.
Not 15-year. 10-year arm. 10-year arm.
I don't even think, do they offer 10-year arms?
They're out there.
10-year arms?
They're out there.
Sure.
5 years. It doesn't matter. But we're looking at what the point I'm trying to get to, Mr. Miller, is whatever we do and a short-term note, we're going to make sure we have the cash put aside that if it ever goes wonky, we just pay it off. To your point.
Or you just refinance when rates drop to the 5 and then you lock it in at a 30.
Well, I think what the viewer's talking about is what if it goes the other direction? What if it goes the other? I think that's what he's talking about. I may be wrong. I think what he's talking about, if you do a short-term paper.
No, I think what he's talking about is this. If you do a 5-year, and correct me if I'm wrong here. In fact, I know him quite well. I think what he's talking about, if you get in a 5-year arm today, and you're getting in the mid-5s on that adjustable rate mortgage, if after 60 months, the term of the arm, we're not in the 5s, the payment that you're custom making for the last 5 years, if it still has a 6 handle or, God forbid, a 7 handle, you're going to see a lot of people saying, geez Louise, hell's bells, what are we going to do here?
That's the same point I'm making.
And he's highlighting 2006, 2008.
We're saying the same thing, just different ways. I think that's what his concern is. And look, my suggestion is if you're going to do a five-year arm or something like that, don't count on interest rates going down, right? If they go down, that's great. But you better have an exit plan set up when you hit whatever it is, selling the home, refinancing or something. You have to have some sort of exit plan because that interest rate could go the other way. 5 years is a long time. So is 7, by the way.
Five years can go in the blink of an eye.
100%. Well, look at this with today's year 7.
Yeah.
And it feels like I just started it a month ago. But in any event, this is why we as pros, bring in trusted advisors. And I think you started to show off a little bit, and the pros that are watching it, sometimes having that hard conversation with your client, the unpleasant conversation, is the right conversation to have, right? Are you sure you want to do this, right? Are you prepared for what might happen? I don't think we're going to have a repeat of '06 and '07, but the interest rates could go up.
I don't think, okay, so, and people are going to push back on this. Some people, the bears will push back on this. I don't think we're going to have a repeat of '06, '07, '08 because of the massive equity positions in people's homes.
Well, the only way you would
have a lot of equity. I do think this, and the American consumer, American households are carrying a boatload of debt right now.
Unbelievable.
A boatload of debt.
Mm-hmm. The credit card debt, right?
Yeah, credit card debt, boatload of debt. And I will also say this.
The question is why?
The University of Virginia right now, guys, is getting nicked from a death of 1,000 cuts from a lot of different ways. Freezing of federal funding, about $384 million allocated to the University of Virginia from federal funds in 2023. The Jim Ryan's already authored a letter to UVA employees that their pay is going to get frozen. They're not going to get the 3% cost of living raise. They're not going to get performance-based bonuses, and discretionary spending is going to be cut. There's some scuttlebutt around UVA that we may have to do pay cuts. That's the scuttlebutt, is pay cuts coming around UVA. The last time that happened, I believe, was, well, frankly, it happened during COVID. It also happened in the 1990s when the University of Virginia started becoming a funding machine, a fundraising machine, because it realized it could not rely on the Commonwealth.
Maybe they might have
funds.
to start selling some of their property off.
Well, and another headwind is the government sector around here.
Yeah.
I mean, $1.3 billion economic driver of Central Virginia's economy is the SPIs, the NGICs, the government sector. That's got headwinds.
Yeah, and
now the offset of that is oh my God, the Paul Manning Biotech Institute and the Data Science School are coming.
Yeah.
They just hired their first executive, the head of the Paul Manning Biotech Institute.
So our job is to talk about those two things: headwinds and tailwinds, right? What you're coming up against and what's pushing you from behind. As a cyclist, trust me, you appreciate headwinds and tailwinds. Headwinds suck, right? When you're trying to keep a 15 mile per hour, an average pushing against a 10 mile headwind. On the other hand, when you got a tailwind of 10 miles an hour pushing you forward and all of a sudden you're doing 20, it makes your life so much easier. Our job, I think, is to be that drafter, to be the person in front of you to help you draft and cut that wind. As long as we've been doing this show, there's always been headwinds and tailwinds. What our job is to talk about them honestly, right? And help our buyers and sellers and help the community on the whole navigate it. What I wanted to really start to show off today with is look, all these headwinds, all this stuff going on right now, we have had I'll double check my numbers here, a 23% jump in listing. Our pendings are slightly off though, so to your point on the headwinds, right? Our quarter over quarter was slightly down from 1,528 pendings in the first quarter of 2025, versus 1,762 in 2024. But we're well above 2019. I keep on going back to 2019. So what does it look like for pre-COVID? I didn't do the percentage difference, but just to put this in perspective, the pendings in the first quarter of 2019 was 1,262. The pendings in the first quarter of 2025 was 1,528. So we've got more product coming online. We've got more pendings coming in. Our prices are going up. We have all these headwinds and tailwinds that we got to navigate with our clients and our customers and the folks that we talk to every day. But that momentum isn't slowing down. That aircraft carrier is maybe not at full speed, but it's sure as hell going forward. So, we just need to be honest and transparent with folks.
Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Comments are coming in quickly. This same commenter, a sophisticated commenter who's asked for discretion here.
Sure.
He says, we are not going to lose value like in 2008 and 2009, but people caught with these adjustable rate mortgages might not understand the refinance costs and what if rates stay in the mid 6s or 7s. A lot of people selling paper to very educated but not financially sophisticated people in Charlottesville, just trying to educate some viewers, understand what you were signing. And I'm also surprised by this. This is the game that I'm in here. There are so many folks that we're doing a deal right now. There's so many folks that are like, talking like PhD credentialed.
Oh, isn't that scary?
That do not understand the concept of like reading a lease, reading a contract, refinance costs, stuff like. I mean, it's just stuff that I was,
I cannot tell you how many times my jaws drop. I'm a guy that was asked to leave high school, right? Here's a diploma. Get the hell out of here, kid.
I mean, Judah highlighted that. He would bet that a large portion of people don't even read contracts.
Well, I can tell you, I can assure you they don't. And we do it a little differently. I actually, when we sit down and go over, I highlight all the important areas and we make sure that the buyer and seller understand what they're signing and what they're getting into. But most people don't. And then on the flip side, when you start having people with lots of lots of whatevers after their last name, they're almost embarrassed to ask what this means. There's that goes on. So it's our job, and thank you so much for this commenter. He's 100% right. It's our job as professionals, right? Real estate professionals, not realtors, real estate professionals, to be professional and take the time and make sure that our clients understand what they're getting in. That's our fiduciary responsibility. It's our moral responsibility, and it's our ethical responsibility, is to make sure they do that. And I'm sure everybody who's watching this does that. That doesn't mean that there aren't some out there that don't. But that's the hard part, to sit down at that kitchen table and have that hard discussion about, okay, are you sure you want to do this? So let me explain this in my vernacular, how to do that. Now, the pushback from some real estate agents out there might be, well, you're not an expert. I'm not a lawyer, obviously. I'm not a loan officer. But I've been in the business for 40 years. I know what something looks like. I also know how to read.
I would also encourage any viewer and listener that's watching this program just to set up, get the conversation and the setup in play for a home equity line of credit. Don't use the HELOC, but have the HELOC ready at your disposal should you need it. The last thing you want to do is rock and roll, is need a HELOC when you're in a time of desperation. Have the HELOC ready to go now in good times.
You're talking about a HELOC or an ARM?
Jesus
HELOC
Christ,
is
I would stay the hell away from an ARM. I would never ever would I consider ever using an ARM.
But why am I using a HELOC for?
Every household should have a HELOC ready to go if the SHIT hits the fan.
Got it.
The last thing you do is you go to a bank and ask for a HELOC when the SHIT is already hit the fan.
100%.
You do it in good times.
100%.
I don't use ARMs.
I was trying to wrap it around how you were tying that into buying and selling.
Yeah, right. No, I'm just offering advice.
Well, HELOC,
from my perspective.
No, but that's good advice,
I know
right?
It's good advice.
Sit down, talk to your local banker, and find out if you can put it in there, put it in place, pull the trigger. It also might, depending on how you wish to manage your money, go through the process. It's not that expensive to get one and just park the funds. You only.
I wouldn't do that.
I know people that do. They park the funds, and the reason I'm.
Where the hell would you park the funds that's going to generate a return against the interest on the HELOC?
Let me finish my train of thought. It's particularly when you're in the buy mode, right? So I have a home that's free and clear that I can't. I need the residual out at the buy, and if there's enough equity in it, you could do a HELOC. Now all of a sudden it's a cash transaction. Do proof of funds. It's a strategy that works. It's not fit for everybody.
That is a slippery slope. Doing
well,
that.
You have to.
You're saying you're going to pull the equity out of your house.
I'm not saying pulling it. I'm saying doing it, having it parked. It sits there. You have it approved. You only get charged when you pull it out of the account. Does that make sense to you? Right? So you go through your thing, set it up, it's approved,
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying, is have the HELOC ready to go.
Yeah, you're just not pulling the cash out.
Right.
You're just leaving
that's
it
what
there.
I'm
You don't
saying,
get charged for your cash. But if you're in a right now, tempo's picking up, right? You're trying to sell your house and buy, and you don't have the cash to do it, and 33% of the transactions are still cash in this area. The percentage of the ones that we're not going to see are cash transactions.
Well, if I was another way, if I was trying to sell my house and buy here, I would just caveat the sale of my house on a leaseback.
There's multiple things to it, but if I'm doing a multiple offer situation on a piece of property that you want, if you're competing against cash,
You're not going to win either way.
But
If you were competing against cash and you had a HELOC with cash in an account, you're still not going to win that scenario.
sorry, it's a cash transaction.
Yeah, but you're not going to have enough cash to buy that house versus the equity on your home. Loan to value, you're getting what, 75% of your equity in a best case scenario?
This only works is if you've got $800 to $1 million, whatever your number is. You have to have enough equity in your HELOC for what you're trying to buy.
Right. So if somebody has if someone has $500,000 in equity, you're going to get 75% maybe on that, on that equity. That's not going to buy you a house in cash.
But I'm thinking numbers bigger than that.
If you have $1 million in equity, you're going to get $750,000.
It depends on what they're trying to buy, Jerry.
Yeah, I mean, they would be sliding down the scale. They wouldn't be buying something equivalent.
Most people slide down. Most of the buyers right now, we know this from the data, right? Are the boomers? They're moving from these bigger. I'm telling you, they're moving from these bigger houses to something smaller, right? So I have a house that's worth $800,000. I got a $600,000 equity line, and I can go find something. Good luck for $600,000. Yeah. I think we're going down a slippery.
Right. The math's not mathing for me on that one. Carly agrees with the comment about having the HELOCs ready to go. Plecker says HELOCs can be used. Michael Plecker, one of the Shenandoah Valley's finest backstops, says HELOCs can be used wisely for down payments, investment property. He says HELOCs can be used wisely for down payment investment properties, and with the rent to mortgage ratio, you can pay the HELOCs off fairly quickly. I use this method and it works.
Yeah.
Be careful with that method. Be careful with that method.
Yeah. Look,
especially if you have vacancy with your rental.
So everything we're talking about is people that have high risk tolerance.
Oh.
Right? And you
Be
have
careful with that method.
You have to have high risk tolerance, and with high risk tolerance, you have to, it's what is the best negotiating tool ever to use? It's called the takeaway, right? The thing about a takeaway is you've got to be able to walk away. You've got to be able to take that hit. So this type of thing, if you're going to do it, you've got to be able to take a hit if it goes sideways and be okay with it.
Jamie Turner, the mayor of Gordonsville, repping the Pep and Culpeper, says, can you get a HELOC on an investment property?
I'm going to say no to that.
You got to be very careful on that.
Yeah, I would say I would find that hard. HELOCs are pretty specifically to. Yeah, I don't know.
HELOC is a home equity line of credit.
Yeah.
Now you may be able to leverage, Jamie, an investment property for some kind of other loan from a very creative finance, third-party finance.
There's some opportunities out there.
But you're not going to get a HELOC on it.
Yeah, so I'll put it in perspective.
No, you can't do it if it's not your primary residence. It's not a HELOC.
Yeah. Well, it's something else. You're getting a commercial loan based on the equity or collateral.
And that's going to be floating debt tied to prime with a very short term. With that loan, it's rechecking to prime every short period of time.
So
depending on your credit score, your profile.
So back in the day when I used to develop, this is something we did all the time, right? We would have property that had so much value, you would just start, but you have to.
That's called the house of cards. And that's why that really is not a situation now. Yeah. Because a lot of people got in trouble doing that.
And that world doesn't exist anymore, right?
Well, certainly not now.
Yeah. So it's all great thinking, right? Thinking outside of the box. But inventory's going up, people.
Yona highlights you can do that with private financing, and I've seen that done with private financing. Great stuff from Yona Smith.
Yeah, so
that's kind of what we're doing with Blue Ridge Venture Fund over there, but she's 100% right there.
Yeah, there's sources that private venture funds fill that vacuum, and it's very difficult to get, generally not cheap, right?
All we're doing with Blue Ridge Venture Fund is connecting extremely wealthy people with people that need financing.
There you go.
Yeah, and those people that are extremely wealthy that are getting connected with people that need financing,
And in that world,
are offering that financing at some kind of rate structure that, frankly, is higher than market. But if the person wanted that money to begin with, they weren't going to get it.
in that world, relationships matter.
Yeah. Comments are coming in faster than I can keep up with right now. I'm going to do my best to try to keep up with these comments. James highlights this comment. James Watson, smart guy.
Hey, James.
He says that, he goes, you guys know more about this than I do, but I believe with the HELOCs, and he says this is a question for someone like Scott Morris. He says, I believe with the HELOCs that, let me read it exactly. I don't think the adjustable rate mortgages, not HELOCs. He says, I don't think the adjustable rate mortgages are legally able to skyrocket like they used to. I believe there is a cap on the percentage rate that only allows them to rise about a 1% per year.
It depends, right? Some do, some don't. That is a leftover from the time of great unpleasantness when there was no cap on them. But yes, there are products out there that will allow, and this sounds like we got to bring in a couple of loan offices to start talking about that on it. But some of them do have a 1 2 point cap kind of thing.
I would also highlight the upside, folks, of structuring seller finance deals if you're trying to get into the investment game or the rental property game.
I'm doing one for the land trust right now.
Seller finance deal is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
100%. It is a win-win. If it's capable of doing it, it's a win-win-win-win-win-win for everybody across the board. The seller, particularly if they don't need the cash, right? If it's a situation where the seller doesn't want the money, and it's also depending on the dollar amount, right? Because that also keeps them out of capital gains world on it, where they get a monthly payment with, 30-year amortization, 7-year balloon, that kind of thing. Usually not too attractive rates, depends on how you negotiate, but it is an awesome tool. Yon and I own one that is a seller rental property that was a seller finance.
Comments coming in. Jamie Turner wants me to add, and Kevin Yancey's bringing a little bit of a bearish perspective. He's saying, I'm hearing a lot of terms that were floated around in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. Kev, the difference is the homeowner has huge equity in their home. So if they do get in trouble, they're just going to list their home, dude, and it's going to sell. It's very different than what was happening in 2007, 2008, 2009, when people were underwater with their homes.
I have Woody coming in.
It's a very different scenario, Kev.
I have Woody, to Kevin's comment, I've got Woody Fincham coming in next Friday. Because the only concern I have, just to do a little bit of in Kevin's court for a minute on it, is if whoever they are, the regulators, start changing appraisal scenarios, because that's what really got us into trouble way back when. If that trajectory starts going back towards it was prior to 2006.
What would be the appraisal change? Something tied to roof vulnerability?
Well,
the appraisal tied with roof vulnerability, is that what you're talking about?
No. So what happened prior to 2006 and 7, you were the lender, you tapped your favorite appraiser, and then it just was not a arm's length transaction.
You were a lender, you used an appraiser that you knew would get the loan to the deal to appraise at whatever was offered, whatever the buyer wanted to buy it on, and next thing you know, everybody was getting mortgages.
Well, let's put it this way, there wasn't the regulatory controls in place to go ahead and do that. And now it's a pool system, right? You can't, if you're a lender, you have to go out to a third-party pool. Now, most appraisers, and this is what I want to talk to Woody about, most appraisers, think this is a good thing or a bad thing. There's a split down the middle. But, the real root cause of this was, as I explained to it, there was the cookie jar, right? And the government opened up the cookie jar and said, hey, anybody can take a cookie, and then everybody took a cookie and they closed the cookie jar, right? So we're going to talk to Woody next Friday about that, because I've been reading some articles about some tweaks in the appraisal system that's on the horizon that I'm not smart enough to understand, and I want somebody who's super smart on this to talk about it.
Jamie's asking for your take on the listing that I positioned on the I Love CVille network on Delavan Street. Did you
Isn't
see
it
that?
like $300,000?
It just got cut. So just had a price cut, a $25,000 price reduction to $275,000. It's an LLC that owns it. Goodbye LLC, Goodbye Real Estate LLC. They purchased it in March for $150. 3 weeks later, they listed it for $300K. Fifeville location. Seventh of an acre. Limited zoning upside though.
If that sells for anything close to what it's currently listed for, I will be very surprised. I just think
Goodbye Real Estate LLC.
I think somebody just bought it and threw it out there and see what happens. I'm not so sure there was a lot of data research on what the value is.
Out of market listing agent.
I don't.
Purchased on the 21st of March for $150. It's a tear down.
It's only worth a lot value.
Yeah, it's dirt and location.
And
I don't think a seventh an acre is at $275 with limited zoning right now.
Best case, and I haven't done the homework on it, Jerry. I saw it the other day. I haven't had a chance to dig into it, so I'm just shooting from the hip on this.
Zoning is RNA.
Yeah, so I think if they knocked the house down, cleaned the lot up, dressed it up, and made it like ready to go, it might be in the very low twos. Might be the market value for it. You know, lots run in Charlottesville, single-family detached, if you can find them, somewhere between $150 and $250, right? Depending on location, right? Obviously, Belmont's going to be more, and so forth and so on. But as a rule of thumb, people that are looking to buy and put single-family detached or something on there, you're looking at a $150, $250. And I haven't did a micro dive into it, exactly what street it's on. And
this is in Fifeville.
I got that, but where within Fifeville and what surrounds it and so forth and so on. But if I was the LLC, I'd tear that sucker down, get a nice clean lot.
I think the LLC, the owner is an out-of-market owner, not an in-market owner.
They bought it.
I think this guy's just trying to make a quick buck.
100%.
And it's right off Dice Street.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Kind of behind the ABC store and the train tracks there on West Main Street.
Well, there you go. That's cleaned up $150 at the most.
Yeah, Jason. Well, it's something to follow. It's certainly something to follow. Yeah. Jason Howard on Rio Road has this question. They got UVA mentality, UVA Foundation mentality in there. I bet you the outside market person was taking a look at what UVA Foundation is paying and thought it was worth more. I think it was a guy that's kind of in like the we buy homes in any condition type of buyer. Did a little bit of an algorithm. So let me see if I can get this.
Anybody research what it closed for? It closed for $150. You said?
Yeah. I'm looking at the GIS. It closed for $150.
Yeah.
And it closed for.
I didn't dig into it.
$150 on the 31st of March of this year. Listed 3 weeks later. I love. Someone said this. Mr. Chris Wyatt made this comment, and I'm gonna steal this from him and always give him props for this. Watching transactions like this is turning into one of my favorite spectator sports in Charlottesville. Watching real estate transactions is now my spectator sport. And a way to make some money. Jason Howard on Rio Road.
Just to throw, before you do that, Jason, give me a second. I just took a look at what last 7 days cash versus loans. So we're hovering still around 30% of the transactions.
Third of transactions cash. Yeah. Mr. Howard says, what are your projections for year-over-year growth in real estate assessment or appreciation in Charlottesville and Albemarle County? If we put the benchmark at 10%, are you taking an over or under? City of Charlottesville, Albemarle County appreciation year over year, 2025 now.
Well, definitely Albemarle County will be north of 10.
I think it's north of 10, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it might be flirting with 15.
Charlottesville
had a rocky start to the year. Q1 was pretty tough.
There's a world where it'll be sub 10. I'm not prepared to make that bet, right? Because I know when I looked at the first quarter for Charlottesville, it was down, right? I can pull it up. I've got the data here somewhere.
I'll say Jason.
So we're thinking end of the year or mid-year? Is he thinking end of the
Let's
year?
go end of the year. End of 2024 versus end of 2025. Howard, I will say this, Jason. End of 2024 versus end of 2025. Micro markets matter. Wise man once told me that. And the micro market that is
Got a lot of gray hair.
that is say
Wears a
the
gray
Lewis
suit,
Mountain
huh?
neighborhood to the 240, 250 split. I think you're looking at a 15% clip right there.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the county as a whole, I'm confident that it's not. We're already north of 10% on it at this point in Albemarle County. Charlottesville is the interesting thing. I'm not prepared to lose another bottle of bourbon, but I would not be shocked if that is below 10%. If it is at 10%, it's going to be closer to 10%. I think Albemarle County is going to be closer to 15% by the end of the year.
There you go. I 1,000% agree with you. Yeah. I mean, it's still insanity in certain parts of Albemarle County, where not just multiple offers, but escalators and trading above asking price, which is absolutely insanity. Keith Smith, comments are coming in, but your wheels are turning over there. What do you got?
Well, I'm trying to find that data so I can answer what the end of the first quarter was. So you can ask a question.
Bill McChesney said he sent us a DM about a Lake Monticello auction property.
I saw that on my bike ride yesterday on Jefferson. Is it the one on Jefferson Drive?
I'll take a look at that.
Which is unique, right? But I literally drove by that yesterday on my bike ride. It's a nice rancher. If what I think it is, it's brown. It's on
Jefferson Drive, 118.
Yeah, Jefferson Drive.
3 bedroom.
Yep.
2 bath.
Cedar sided, if I remember the house correctly. Interesting to see that. Is that a trend? Don't know the answer to that yet. But actually, that's in my notes to dig up later on this afternoon to see what that thing's going to hit the.
$25K starting bid.
Yeah.
8th of March. 8th of May is the auction.
I'd have to look at who the current owner on that is. Has it been taken back over by the bank? More than likely it has, or the lender institution. So it's not a short sale where the seller or the property owner is doing it. There's probably already been a foreclosure process that happened and is controlled by the bank or whatever institution that foreclosed on it to sell it. But $25K, yeah, that'll go for $250 easy.
You think so?
Oh yeah, ranch, single level, attached garage. Pretty close to the gates, nice lot. I've known this is an old house. It's been around since the 80s, because I remember this house way back when. Single level, probably
1988. Yeah.
Look at me.
Look at you.
I've only been there
since then.
Since
Yeah.
Since '87. It probably
1,400 square feet of living space.
Yeah. So it probably needs $100,000 worth of work, and it probably needs to be updated and all that stuff. I'd rip off that cedar siding. It needs a new roof and all that stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if that trades between $200 to $250 at auction.
Holly Foster watching in Henrico.
Hey, Holly, how are you?
She says, great news for Keith Smith. So
Thank
happy
you,
about
Holly.
that.
Thank
she
you
says,
very much.
great beginning to year 7. And she says, happy Passover, happy Easter, and happy Easter Bunny Day to everybody. Thank you, Holly Foster.
Holly, you're one of my heroes in my life. Thank you.
Holly Foster, you are awesome. We
Thank
love you and your dog, Luke. Holly Foster. Comments very quickly are coming into the program. This one is a good one. Where does Keith see the vulnerability in the market? Faye Lipscomb, thank you for watching the program. Where does Keith see the vulnerability in this market?
Wow, that is a great question.
New construction's got some headwinds, folks.
No, I've just looked at the numbers. They're growing.
New construction?
I'm just looked at them. I closed it out already. Didn't realize we're at 11:20. New construction is climbing. We will give new construction versus existing at the end of the second quarter.
Yeah,
but I'm
very curious to see that.
But I can tell you, I know for a fact in Colonial Circle and Creekside, they're selling faster than they can get them on the market. And that I know for a fact.
Jonas says affordability is your vulnerability in this market.
But Mrs. Smith, it's been for a very long time. But yes, affordability, even though inventory is up, what we say, 23%? I don't have the number in front of me, but inventory is up year over year.
I'd say the vulnerability in this market is if you're a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, but we talked about that last Friday, right? This conflict or this world between the boomers, the gray hairs, and the first-time home buyer or the millennial Gen Z buyer. It's it's true, it's real, it's out there. Look, I think it's more of the same. The only glimmer of hope I'm trying to convey today is we've been waiting for an uptick in inventory, and it's happening. Is it all of a sudden going to plateau out? But as this tempo or as this inventory starts climbing, it's just sucking more buyers in. It's what we talked about all the time, right? If interest rates go down to 5, that sucking in is going to be even greater into it. So it's sucking in now in the 6 and the 7s on it. And these buyer profiles just have a lot of cash to put down. So it's the headwinds that you've been talking about for a while isn't going away. We got a little bit of tailwinds coming in, but be patient, folks. We'll win.
Keith Smith, Real Talk with Keith Smith. Some closing thoughts for your fans.
No, I just that last question was probably the question of the show, right?
Where's the vulnerability?
Where's the vulnerability, right? And
for me, I'll say it really succinctly. The vulnerability for me is difficulty with first-time home buyers. The vulnerability for me is the challenges that the University of Virginia is facing, the number one economic driver, and the challenges that the defense sector and government contracting, government workers, the number 2 economic driver, are facing. The vulnerability for me is the tariffs and the turmoil caused from these tariffs with stock markets, with markets. A lot of folks that live in this community, very wealthy people, their confidence aligns with how their portfolio is doing, and 2025 has been a down year for all of us. That's a little vulnerability piece for me. But overall, I still continue to remain very bullish and very confident in the Central Virginia market because, as I highlighted on the I Love CVille show, you got with the Data Science School and with the Paul Manning Biotech Institute, easily 5,000 new jobs coming to this area. And the jobs are going to be held by people that don't live here now. And where are 5,000 people going to live? They're going to live in homes that are not on the market. So that's why I think that you're going to have levels of appreciation that maybe are not at COVID levels, but depending on where you are in Albemarle County, you're going to be hitting 15% year over year
which is
appreciation.
Above the norm.
Yeah,
double,
way above.
Double.
Triple in some cases.
And triple
Yeah.
in...
I mean, what's normal, 3 to 5%?
3 to 6.
Yeah.
3 to 6
and if you're hitting 15, you're 3x.
Yeah, 3, and our friends like Kevin is going to go, when is this going to stop, right? But look, economic headwinds, drivers, all this stuff, I've been doing this since 87. Some version of that has always been hitting our market, right? If it's COVID, it's what's currently going on now. Is it the time of great unpleasantness? There is always something that is hitting the real estate market. And other than the time of great unpleasantness, if you take a look at the trajectory, values have gone. Some of it's gone up and down, but over time, it's been going up. The real thing is, and even though I wanted to focus on, hey, inventory's picking up. It's still inventory, folks, right? We just don't have enough right homes, right? There's maybe homes out there, but we don't have the right homes that are in the right location, right price, right features, right condition, that are available for these buyers that are coming in there that are well-heeled, and the pressure is on. Why I volunteer so much of my time here and why I'm about ready to go to another meeting to try to figure out how to help this missing middle, right? And this missing middle, to Neil's point, is, in my mind, is not product, right? It's not homes. It's people. The missing middle buyer is just getting beat up and will continue to get beat up. But we're here to help. The way around this is have honest, truthful,
straightforward conversation.
Yeah,
100%. You do a great job of that.
And don't dance around it and say, look, if we're going to try to buy, this is what we're heading against. So anyway, thank you Jerry, for the
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah. Keith
Didn't
Smith,
realize.
guys. Real Talk with Keith Smith online at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Click the partners tab, and then you'll see the people that he's personally vetted that will help you in real estate. Get to closing beyond. The show is presented by Yes Realty Partners. YRP and Yes Realty Partners. Honest, communicative, straightforward. Do well by you, not just before closing, but well after closing. If you have questions, I've seen it with Keith and Yona and their team. They're absolutely fantastic. Judah Woodcower behind the camera.
I was almost going to say, and great news, I don't have to shoot up anymore. But
doesn't have
but,
to-
But that would come out real wrong.
He is in good health right there. If you like the show, guys, hammer that like button. Thank you kindly for joining us. The I Love CVille show up at 12:30. So long, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.